welcome to now, finally, because I have been waiting for this moment to kiki with Feminista Jones. I wish, I've just been running around today, but I got my read the article mug. I have been a Patreon. I
Yes.
have been a student. I have just been a fellow sister in the movement out here in these internet streets as well as in real life, IRL. So please welcome to the podcast now, Feminista Jones. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. My students would love this because I teach you all the time. And so hopefully some of them will see this.
Listen, I'm telling you, it was such a beautiful surprise. I was reading your book. It was our spaces, reclaiming our space, right?
Mhm.
Reclaiming our space. And I'm listening, and there's various folks in the book, that you're mentioning, Angela Davis and like Bell Hooks and all these other folks, Barbara Smith, and and then I hear, little old me in the mix there, and I'm just like, I was so pleased because as I was listening, as a black trans woman throughout my years of being 43, I have sat at the foot of so many black women teachers, that have taught us a little bit of things as much as they could. NDRE, brown skin, and different things of where I see myself reflected. But oftentimes, I have to either uh, reflect in the universalness of like lyrics like NDRE, or when Oprah or someone else is talking about a certain type of liberation for women in general, I have to kind of find myself, you know what I'm saying, in that conversation. Whereas you've been very clear, from the jump in your allyship, or I don't know if I should say from the jump, because I want you to tell me what the
Yeah,
jump is, because I don't know where
yeah,
that started from you, but all I've ever
yeah,
known is you
yeah.
being an ally and recognizing trans leadership.
Yeah, it's so I talk a little bit about it in the book, and it's one of those things where I try to lead by example and say none of us were born perfect. None of us were born spitting multisyllabic words. We didn't all come out. We were not born woke, right? I actually wrote a piece called The Privilege of Being Born Woke because I feel like some folks from younger generations expect us to have had the awareness now that many of us have actually gotten from them. So I wasn't always somebody who was like rah rah trans women. I didn't know, first of all, I didn't know a whole lot about, folks' experiences outside of what, I witnessed growing up with my mom being in the community. But I just, we grew up with the same transphobia that everybody did. And I'm not making excuses, trust and understand. But if it was not for encountering folks online, right, and activists and people like yourself, I would not have the consciousness that I do now. And I'm grateful for it. It's well over a decade in, but I had to come to that moment the same way a lot of people come to me for those moments. So in the book, I talk about that because I think it's important to be like, listen, y'all, we ain't always been this good about things, but growth happens,
Absolutely.
and it happens when you learn and when you listen to people share their stories and stuff. That's where I learn and that's where I grow. And so for me, to not include black trans women in my conversations. Like I tell people all the time, when I'm saying women, please assume coming from me, I mean trans cis, however. If you say you're a woman, you're a damn woman. That's what I'm talking about, right? And then, so I think when I model that for people, it's just like, nah, I don't play. We're not playing those games. Yeah, we're not. I don't want to add extra
Absolutely.
words to what I got to say anyway. So it's women. Women is women is women, and that's it, right? And if my understanding of womanhood has
Hmm.
been changed by trans women, right? I'm now in this
For the
space
better,
of
you
like,
would say, right?
oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm in this space of now of like, well, whatever I was taught, how harmful has that been to all of
Well,
us, right?
think about this right now in this moment. We all watched a global display of transphobia at the Olympics.
Man.
If this wasn't the moment that should illustrate for so many cisgender women, natural born women, however we want to, all the language y'all want to use, y'all know what we're saying. But if we didn't see now how transphobia affects all of us, this was a moment because no one's questioning or monitoring the testosterone level in these male athletes. They're
Mm.
barely checking them for COVID.
Mm. Or cocaine.
Oh, well, let's talk about it. And so there's so many things that they call black athletes out on. We've seen
Oh,
Sha'Carri Richardson
absolutely.
called
Hmm.
out for marijuana usage, but yet I've seen people, and again, I haven't even been following that toughly, but I've seen people calling out some athlete for having a history of sexual I want to say assault on a minor, like a 12-year
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, he raped a
And
12
yet
year old. Yeah.
yes, you know what I mean? And I've in these internet streets in these days, I've been it's I am in a state of somewhat of a awe because I came up in a time where I learned through a journalism class. I learned through a few things where how you check what is a great source, knowing the propaganda machines of marketing,
Mhm.
understanding all of these different things. And yet, I'm getting to a place, Feminista Jones, where I am pausing
Mhm.
as I consume the
Yeah.
media that comes in because I'm not sure if what I am watching is real and it's
Mhm.
or is
Mhm.
being shown in the lens that I'm supposed to see it in. And it's so hard because I used to be able to turn on the news and on the
Mhm.
TV and see the news reporting on the stories. But
Mhm.
now the things that we need to be informed about,
Mhm.
I- I'm learning about on TikTok. I'm learning about
Yeah.
on Instagram until they started shutting those things down. And you've been a
Right.
part of that wave that has moved from the classroom
Mhm.
to the internet. And sometimes people get it confused that you just started on the internet.
It's interesting because we are going to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the National Moment of Silence, right? Which remains the largest anti-police brutality demonstration in modern U.S. history. And we're going to be talking about that. That wouldn't have happened if I wasn't an organizer beforehand. Like if I hadn't been a community organizer and activist. Yeah, using the internet is cool and social media is great. You still got to know what you're doing. It's merely a
Absolutely.
tool, right? It's an effective tool. And well, it was once an effective tool, but when they realized, in part because of said demonstration, that this could actually be used in a very powerful way, then they decided to shake it up. I ended up on, freaking watch list for Department of Homeland Security because they're like, well, who is this? Who is this that can do this kind of thing on this massive scale? And so now we're
Hmm.
starting to see the consequences of that kind of mobilization and activism. Now they're trying to destroy all the platforms that we use to connect with each other across the country, across the world. And so people have to stay woke.
Well, let's talk about those consequences for a second because
Mm-hmm.
you talk about consequences. I know
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. The kind of oppressiveness and the shutdown that we've had happen, some of us really feel it. And I don't know if everybody does feel it or if the shutdown has made things a little bit more comfortable too for others who are not just the oppressors, but the people who just good vibes only.
I know what you're getting at. So I always want to give people perspective. You're 43, I'm
Please.
45. 10 years ago, a lot of the folks who they're targeting now that are in their 20s, these were kids. They were in middle school and high school. They don't remember a lot of this. I get students, I'm like, Mike Brown, and they're like, who? They barely know Trayvon Martin. They barely know
Wow.
these things. And this was
Really?
just a decade ago, right?
Right.
So we're talking about almost a collective amnesia around a lot of these things, in part because of social media's microwave ability and how new topics are generated every day. The brain is not designed to hold all of that, right? If you were 14 when Mike Brown died, did you go to a protest? Maybe if your parent took you or something like that. Were they talking about it in school? We don't necessarily know. 10 years later, you're getting online, you want to organize for Palestine and for the people, the Palestinians in Congo and Sudan and things like that, not realizing that, a decade ago, you had people doing the same stuff that you could be learning from. And so folks are a bit disconnected, but that was the consequence. What a part of it was, really disabling and disarming a lot of the ways we connected online, making people pay for certain things.
But where did this come from where people, not even just young people, but anybody who said, okay, now I want to come in, how,
Mhm.
where does the line of thinking come from to not look back at
Mhm.
and see the work that anybody or just the, you know, it's just
Right.
it's
Well, it's not being taught, right? So, the attacks on education are really at the core of this. What are they learning in school? Again, if your parents weren't involved, they're not necessarily going to teach you these things. I learned about a lot from my mom, who was an AIDS activist, like early AIDS activist. You know what I mean? On the show, when y'all did this, the thing on ACT UP and how, people were doing the die-ins, my mom I cried through that whole episode because that was what my
wow.
mom did. She used to organize stuff like
Wow.
that. So like, I was just like sitting there, like, finally the lesbians are getting their attention that they deserved for that, right?
Absolutely, especially by the bedside of so many as well. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So I grew up with that. Okay. But also, this is a woman who was like rocking with the Panthers and the feminists and things like that. I got lucky. A lot of folks are not being raised by folks who were involved in that work. My son, I took him to protests, right? So he's way more aware than his peers. So it's
Wow.
kind of like we need to pass that on. But there's also an intergenerational disconnect, I think, that is fueled by social media. I think there's a lot of stuff that comes in that tells these young people, oh, they're boomers, they're old, they don't know what they're talking about, don't listen to them. And then I think the older folks are like, oh, these young stupid kids, they can't read and things like that. We have those tensions that are kind of keeping us apart, but I think there is social media messaging that is doing that.
Right.
So I get frustrated.
Do you feel like the gap is closing at all?
No, I think it's actually widening, and I'm
Wow.
concerned because the young people have so much energy and they want to do the right thing. They just need to know, like, this is what was tried before, it didn't work, this is what has
Right.
been effective, here's how
Right.
you can learn more of that. But again, if they're not getting it in school, they're not learning about protests against the Vietnam War, they're not even learning about, like, where are they going to learn that unless it's on social media? But then if you've erased people, like the National Moment of Silence has damn near been erased, how will they learn? How will they
Right.
know? Right.
Right.
And so I think a lot about that. My job as an educator is to make sure we never forget those things.
Well, that's why I also subscribed at the level when I've subscribed is
Yeah.
because like the teaching that you
Mhm.
have been doing, some a lot, obviously for free, and
Mhm.
just, folks I know, which I hope even more folks recognize the value in what you are offering in this moment, even when you don't have to. What I want to, okay, so this podcast specifically, we be talking about
Mhm.
no opportunity wasted. And what that usually
Mhm.
means is like the fact that every moment is a moment. Life is made up of so many moments, moment by moment, and each moment is an opportunity to sort of
Mhm.
win or lose in your sort of
Mhm.
your spiritual
Yeah.
objectives, you know what I mean?
Whew.
And so the reason why I want to tap into a little bit with this is because I think that what I want to talk about is I try to reflect for everybody that it's whether you are this person or that person, depending on your mix of things, it's all going to be challenged. Each of us are going to have our individual challenges.
Mhm.
But you can't just have the accolades. You just can't have the awards without the
Right.
struggle, without the hours of
Right.
work, without completing that degree, even when it was difficult, whether financially or
Mhm.
actually physically
Mhm.
to finish the thing.
Mhm.
Talk to me about what it looks like for you to have the opportunity that is your life, that is Feminista
Mhm.
Jones. And
Mhm.
what was the challenge of showing up and dealing with the challenge of a marriage and then a marriage dissolving and
Mhm.
still having to raise a child and still
Mhm.
having enough strength and room to be lifting bridges and
Mhm.
everything else for the rest of
Yeah.
us to cross.
You, you know, a good friend of mine, yeah, the other day, her sister, was in a bad situation, and we were just kind of like, what can we do to help you? And she's like, I'm just going to Black woman through. And I think about that, like what the implications. I understand as a Black woman, I knew exactly what she meant. I didn't have to ask another question. I'm just going to Black woman through. And I didn't want to be married. I got
Right.
pregnant. I
Mm-hmm.
got pregnant and I was just like, oh my goodness, not me. I was still stuck in a lot of those things. I had this Ivy League degree. I was living on my own. I was doing, like, how the hell did this happen to me? And I was buying into a lot of, the respectability things. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to raise this kid without his father in the home. I had been raised like that. And so I ended up marrying somebody I wasn't in love with, somebody I should not have married, right? So we divorced and, for a while we did the co-parenting thing and then it just got contentious and now he's living with me primarily and I'm, shouldering most of the responsibility and that's fine. Like my kid is great. He's wonderful and all those things. I think for me, what's been important is that I've never identified myself as just a mother or a wife or, something for someone else. I have I've always been me first. Could be that I'm an Aries sun, Leo moon, I don't know, but I am always the main character in my story. Even when I've experienced abuse and mistreatment, I've still always been me. And so I'm the me who has a kid. I'm the me who was married. I'm the me who, is aromantic, which that also helped. That discovery helped a lot of my relationship kind of stuff. I am the me who is pansexual. I am the me who does those things. And I think being grounded in each iteration of me supersedes everything else. At the end of the day, my oxygen mask has to go on first. And that way I can breathe and then I can assess the world around me and figure out what it is that I need to do.
Wait. So you just said something that triggered something for me. And I got to get your opinion on it because I don't understand how you can sit here and talk about putting your own mask on first. Also wearing a, what do you call the kafia
Kafia.
because and also, speaking the way that you do, you seem to be walking and chewing gum, and I'm wondering how you do it because the thing is that the conversation has come up that politically speaking right now, a vote for Kamala Harris is for us as Black people putting our mask on first. What would you say to that?
Well, that's why I'm not voting for her. But again, it's a stance that I take for myself. And I had to put my mask on so I could assess the situations going around the world. And I'm like, I have enough to breathe. I can breathe. Okay, but others cannot. So now what? Right? We are always connected to people in struggles because the world has, I want to say this, the right way, but Blackness gets put onto people and how the world treats them, right? When we talk about anti-Blackness, so what does that mean, right? So we have to understand that Blackness is this, I can't use the N word, but there's actually a term for it, and it's the N-ifying of people, right? And the N-erization of people. And that has happened across the globe to people in these situations, whether it is Palestine, whether it's Congo, the Tigray people, just the way that the colonized entities treat them, right? We have solidarity in that because we understand that hundreds of years of being treated like that. There's no way to divorce yourself from the struggles of other people around the world. And I've never bought into the as long as me and mine are okay. That's never, ever, that goes against everything I understand about collective consciousness and solidarity. And because I am Pan-African, there are African people in Palestine right now suffering, right?
It sounds like what you're talking about. It sounds also that you're making a choice.
Yes.
In this collective mindset. Do you think that people are conscious? I guess because of what I'm hearing, this all, of course. Are there I think there's a mindset that's not interested. It's like this individualism. I think that has.
Of course. And that is all European. That is all patriarchal. That is all colonizer ways of thinking. We are African people. We are collective. I am because we are. That is it. That is how we survived for thousands of years being communal. So to move away from that is a very Eurocentric way of being. And basically, that's white people shit. We don't do that. We do not do that individualism. There's no such thing as self-made.
But we're doing it, right?
Some of us are, again, because look at what they've done to our minds for hundreds of years, right? You know, I am fortunate that I was raised in a way that allowed me to divest of that and to work on decolonize my mind. And I say that because it's life's work. We're never, you know, again, hundreds of years of programming, right?
Yes.
But I cannot be free. We are not free until all of us are free. And that's the bottom line. And I understand that a lot of people are choosing, you know, self-preservation. I gotta do what's right, what works for me and mine. And okay, I get it.
What do you do with that recognition? And the reason why I asked that is that for me, I had to switch up how I use my Instagram completely, my main profile, because I realized what I want it to be is one thing. What it is on Instagram is another thing, because it is absolutely hard coded in the algorithm to be exactly what they want it to be, nothing more, nothing less.
100%.
And so I had to turn that into such a Trojan horse where I'm now rebuilding my engagement on that platform and reconnecting with everybody I know is real on all the other things that will show me the real people, because this celebrity thing is this.
Yeah.
So, but from my perspective, places that I've been, I came into this from grassroots organizing. I came into this from working with the task force and this and that and the third. And then I got famous from my acting, not from being a token advocate, which I you know, because I can understand whenever people are trying to do certain things, and I'm always the one they have to second guess themselves when they invite, because of how I use my platform and my space.
Right.
But
who are you telling?
Listen, they be like, wait, are you sure? Did you read?
You know, not sure we can risk that, because that
sure.
one there will have to shut her down.
Baby, let me tell you, I had hosted Pride on ABC Hulu for 2 years straight. I've been speaking up so much about this stuff. The third year came around, I was supposed to be hosting again. That all got shut down because they know as well as I know what I will do with a live moment. And what I won't do is trash the situation. What I will do is drop exactly what needs to be, you know, dropped in that moment.
Right.
But from my place and experience and access and all these different things, I've always understood what you're talking about, the collectivism and how collective liberation. But what I've been seeing is capitalism, Hollywood, privilege, whatever, picking us off one by one. It's about me, and it's about protecting that. How do you look at when you identify those who are operating through individualism, whether they are at a distance, a celebrity, someone you looked up to, or someone that you are in closer proximity to? Does that change anything, or how do you engage with someone who's in a space of individualism?
I don't talk to people. So here's the thing. I've reached a place I don't look up to people. I look sideways, because that's where I am. Right.
Right. I heard that.
I have, you know, great regard for many people, but you ain't no better than me. Right. Nor am I any better than them. Right. I am because we are. Yeah, I don't deal with that anymore. And I make it kind of clear. And I think one of the things that puts off some people is that I am such a straight shooter. I'm very F your feelings, because if you're not talking about what I'm trying to hear, I don't have time for this. Like, the 5 minutes, 10 minutes that I spend going back and forth with you, knowing that you're enslaved and you're going to uphold white supremacy, is 5 or 10 minutes I could be handing some food out somewhere, or I could be, working on a program that's teaching young people how to advocate for them. So I could be doing something else. And, we're not going to get caught in that trap of like trying to defend our humanity against people who will never see us as human. I don't understand that anymore. And I see a lot of folks, and I get it. I do understand.
Changing hearts and minds.
Right. Survival, all those things. And I think that's what you were getting towards asking me earlier. And I just want to touch on that really quickly. Trauma is trauma is trauma. I'm a retired trauma-informed social worker. I never project trauma onto people, nor do I tell them what they must do. What I do is try to understand how people are in the situation. I always ask the question, what happened to you? Black people around the world, what happened to us was European colonization, imperialism, dominance, violence, savagery, all of that stuff. So I understand why so many of us operate and function the way we do. It's how we survive, right? I had to get to a place where I was just like, how do I balance survival? Because why are we paying for food and water, right? Those things don't make sense to me. You need food and water to live. You should not have to pay for that. But when it hit me that I live in a world that makes human beings pay for food and water, I knew that I was operating in a world that made absolutely no sense. So I have to do the best that I can to survive that and try to get other people to see that we are better together than we are as individuals. What I see happen with folks that take the individual approach is that they don't last very long. They say if you want to go fast, you want to go somewhere fast, whatever, go by yourself. If whatever the situation, whatever that saying is, I'm going to go with it today. I'm going to go with people because I also want people to be there with me. Dr. King said, I might not get there with you. And I understand exactly what he was talking about. Not just that he knew they were going to take him out before he reached a certain point, but also that not everybody will be there. Right. That he was talking about. We ain't all getting on the mothership. And I've had to be okay with that. I used to not be. When I was a young activist, maybe 25 years ago, I was like, we got to save everybody. We got to get everybody. But I started realizing that I was denying Black people the humanity and the dignity of risk and choice. And at some point, you say, yes, I understand hundreds of years of colonization, but at some point, sweetheart, you got to make a choice. And some of our people are making choices to not be free because we don't know liberation. And I teach this in my classes all the time. Let me just say this thing because I want your people to hear this. We do not know what liberation looks like. We have continuously defined liberation as the opposite of oppression. So even then, our liberation gets tied to our oppression. We do not know what it means to exist outside of this oppressive paradigm, right? So we choose the devil we know. And that's what's comfortable. Rather than try to go for the freedom and the liberation we don't know, which could mean suffering, it could mean pain and things like that. We're not willing to try that. Again, I understand it, but I was not raised that way. I was raised to fight for that. You come hell or high water. And so that's why
and what's so interesting about you saying that is that, I'm literally getting goosebumps because there's so many levels to it because I have recognized as well that as Black people, we have identified risk as something we don't have access to sometimes. Especially when you are raised that you have 3 strikes, or Black, you're this, you're female, or you're, so all of these different things. But through my spiritual practice and through Buddhism, I was introduced to this concept, and we could talk about this too, obviously, but like it was me meeting when I got introduced to the practice, I immediately knew it was for me or whatever. But when I got to the center in Los Angeles and I walked in and I saw the other Black people, and on their faces, in their hairstyles, in the way that they dressed, was a freedom that I do not see often in the patriarchal Black church. the bald head black Buddhist woman, the one with the gray locks. I don't think I saw a single relaxer in the building. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, sometimes they do. It's not nothing against relaxers. But what I'm saying is that even the freedom I think that Tina Turner eventually found for herself from that practice is something that has been separate from Black community in ways that they haven't always honored her legacy. Even like a Beyonce or things like that, to take the abuse out of her story and make it into something as frivolous as a lyric, or again, not Beyonce, but Jay-Z. I don't want to blame her for her husband's actions, but still she's tied to it, as they both released
She's a
the song.
meticulous Virgo. She has control over everything.
So say hello, say that. But so not only did I see that and know there was something there when I saw Blackness differently, showing up differently, when I was met with another Black person and I told them nervously that I was trans in the beginning, they were like, oh, wow, congratulations. And we would always say congratulations whenever we know that anyone's faced with either a big challenge or what we would say a life mission. And so the little addition that they were making up in just meeting me is like, wow, you must be blessed. That's their immediate reading.
That's recognition. That's spiritual recognition, and I'm telling you, as African, it all goes back to Africa. But
secondly, what you brought up for me is this concept of suffering consciously, which is this idea of you cannot go from birth to the box and death and not experience pain and suffering. And to understand that with losing loved ones, with losing relationships, a job, or whatever it might be, when you get good at suffering consciously so that the rug is not pulled from under your feet, it is the risk that we're talking about where you say, you know what, I'd rather take the pain of that path to my liberation versus staying here and feeling this and being stuck in this pain.
Yeah, there's got to be something better than this. That's how I always think about it. I was raised in the church. I'm not in the church anymore. Everybody knows that. But I was deeply, deeply raised in that. And, one of the things that I got out of that experience is that I'm not going to take Black people's joy from them. So whatever they find joy in, on some level, I gotta let them have that, because the denial of joy is so systemic that whenever we can find joy. So if that is through praising white Jesus, if that is through chanting, if that is through, getting high every morning, I'm not gonna take that from you. I want to meet you where you are and where you are, most open to receive what I'm trying to share with you. And I can't go finger wagging like, oh, whatever, because you're not gonna get the message. I think about that stuff a lot. I'm smiling because you're saying so much about I've been through all of these things, but one thing I understand now in the work that I do, you were talking about not getting paid or whatever. People are like, oh, you educate people and things like that. That's the goal. Dr. Asante, who's my Malefi Asante, was my mentor and my advisor. And he's like, we do this for the liberation of our people. But this is not knowledge for knowledge's sake. We're not getting these degrees just to say we got them or to learn, whatever. We're doing this so that we can then go out into the world and liberate our people. So what is the point of me knowing these things or being conscious of these things and not sharing that with people? I look at people like John Henry Clark and Bell Hooks and others who are like, I got these ideas. I've come to realize these things. I'm going to share it with people so that they can also, learn something. And that's more of what we need to do. Now, we're able to use social media to reach larger audiences, but people have been doing this since time immemorial. Like this idea of a person sitting there and sharing wisdom and people gathering around to learn it, that's African. It is what we do. So that's why in my book, I said that, social media really it's so easy for Black people and people of African descent to use because it speaks to our inherent communication style. We are communal. We are communal. We are call and response. We are all these things. And that's why we do so well on these platforms and why we're able to, to guide the conversations, to
That
lead the change.
quickness is something else.
Quickness. And then that's why they are working so hard to shut us down. So, X removed the verified things. They suppress you if you don't buy that. Yeah, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, I went from somebody who had 170,000 followers to that meaning nothing anymore because they're making sure no one sees what I post. So I stopped posting there, right? You start to realize that that's what's happening. Same with Instagram. Because
Absolutely.
I started posting
and
about
with Threads
Palestine,
too.
Right?
Most areas on there gaslighting everybody about this, and literally saying out of his mouth that they're suppressing political news, and then when people point out that everything is political.
Yeah, you may want to discuss politics, but we're not going to make it easy for you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is that is out of this world. And so
what's out of this world about it is I think that they're violating antitrust regulations because
they are. They're getting away with it. Like, Angelica, like this is it's such a mind because
I'm not the only one that sees it.
No, I
keep saying to myself, who am I? This is what gets me mad though, because I'm a Black transsexual from wherever. And how is it that I can recognize violations of antitrust laws when the fact that Meta is tied to everything that we have to do as far as business? Do you understand that how many contracts and things that I have lost because my 450,000 followers is not showing up in my metrics that the brands were paying me for the eyes for? So now Meta manipulated my income stream on something that is tied to the way all of the businesses do business. So tell me we don't have a class action suit together as Black people.
That's part of why I stopped doing freelance writing, because they started caring more about how many followers I had and how many people you would reach. And I told them, I was like, this is not sustainable, right? That they're not going to allow that kind of influence to carry on. I am an activist. They are going to suppress anything that I try to do. And so, trying to game the system, all that, it's again, I've been telling people for the last 10 years, build your connections offline. Like, make sure that you have community offline, or do the best that you can, because all they have to do is flip a switch. They do it in China. They do it in other countries. People think the United States won't flip a switch and turn the internet off if they really think we getting too out of pocket. Come on, son. And they'll call it an electrical outage. Get the fuck out of my face. I know how this works, right? And like, people are like, oh, like conspiracy theory. No. I understand the United States government and military and capitalism and white supremacy. Therefore, the so-called richest country in the world that has access to all the tools they need, so where they can figure out little old me needs to be watched and tailed. Okay. They can do whatever it is that they want to do. So we have to be, build that community, build those connections, and stop relying on the algorithm to make that happen. And I think, unfortunately, where the generational divide happens, you and I, when we grew up, we have skinned knees for a reason. We were outside.
Absolutely.
And and that's the difference and the disconnect, is that they have managed to steal our children's childhoods. They have sucked them in. They have pulled them away from each other. And we've got a generation that doesn't know how to make friends, how to talk to each other, how to build community. And I'm sorry for thinking that's by design, because collectivism changes systems.
Oh, that's definitely by design.
When people can get together. You saw what they did to the kids on Roblox when they did the Free Palestine thing on Roblox. Shut them all down. And these kids came up with that themselves. So if every time they're trying to do something, it gets shut down or suppressed or pushed back, they're going to eventually stop, which is the goal.
Which is the goal.
Which is the goal. And so once you recognize that, spiritually, you have to divest. I used to be so invested in like how many followers I had, how many people I could reach, what was this and this. And I had to divest and say, you know what? I'm just putting it out into the universe. Wherever it needs to land, it will land. It may take a week, and they may miss the event that I was trying to advertise, but it's going to land at some point. And so I just keep putting it out. My spirit has called me to just keep putting it out.
Absolutely.
Keep putting it out. Like with my school, Sankofa Summer School, just keep putting it out. People are going to come across that YouTube channel. They're going to see all these lectures. They're going to get that knowledge. I have faith in it. and I just keep doing what I feel like I'm called to do. The money and stuff, listen, as long as I can put food in my child's stomach, I'll be okay.
That's how.
Because I give me a pack of cigarettes and suppress that
Ah,
appetite real quick. That's what my mom used to do. That's why my mom used to
Right.
smoke, because she could get the cigarettes cheap, but she couldn't afford enough food for both of us. So she would make sure I ate, and she would go have a cigarette for dinner. You know what I'm saying? That's where I come from, and that's the mentality I come from. So I can sacrifice a lot because I know I can get by on this much. And I'm grateful for that, because it gives me a perspective. I'm not chasing that algorithm dollar. It's nice when they say, oh, we're making a deposit. That's cool. But I'm not chasing that, I'm not. I have community. They watch what I do. They make donations and stuff. I appreciate all of that. But I'm going to do it if I get $0 or 1,000. I'm still going to do it. One person or 10,000 in the audience, I'm still going to do it.
And what I think, though, that you also are touching on, what we're coming up on is the fact that, where your stance is, though, is not just with the algorithm. It's with capitalism.
Yeah.
Because
that controls the algorithm. Yeah.
Yes. And the reason why I say that is because, like, we're on Threads. I see you on Threads. And I when I tell you, I'm so glad that I have the experience of being able to see you smile and laugh and, like, hear your voice, because it is what keys me through the day sometimes when I see you post something and somebody might be taking it offensive and thinking you're angry, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking to myself, they don't know how bad she's just smiling or grinning to herself right now.
I be high so much too. I be like, y'all really taking this real serious? I'm like, I'm higher than giraffe pussy right now. This is funny to me. Why y'all mad? But I appreciate folks like you that say that, because people be like, oh, I'm reading this in your voice. I know how you are. I've seen you live. I've seen you make jokes. I've seen how you are. So they don't take it that seriously. Other people are just like, oh my God, we got to burn her at the stake. I'm like,
well,
I
think that shows that people who are not actually in community with you,
exactly.
And so they don't really know, and so, because I feel sorry for sometimes for some folks who go into your mentions.
It's fun.
And then I'm like, oh no. Oh no. Wait, just recently you were banned. We had to advocate to get you back on Threads.
Get me back.
Can you tell the talk? Let's talk about that real quick.
I said that there were men that were ugly. You're not allowed to say that men are ugly on any meta platform, and that is directly due to Mark Zuckerberg being ugly. He struggles with that, and in all of his billionaire status, he has made it so that you cannot say that men are ugly or you risk losing your account, because he is an ugly man with insecurity.
Do you know how bad I was digging? I was digging like, wait, what did she say? What I kept trying to look for the thing. And when you posted the screenshot of what it was, I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Everybody was like, are you serious? But that, again, so you can't take it as a random thing. It is Feminista Jones. It is somebody who has enough power to organize like 100,000 people in a few days, right? It is a person who is writing these things and teaching and is the woke. She's like leader of the woke mob, right?
They thought they were going to give you a public lashing.
Everything, any opportunity they can to try to shut me down. They're like, oh, she's not on Twitter anymore. She's over here on Threads. Wow, let's watch her. She doesn't use Facebook as much as we'd like. She's on Instagram, but we've suppressed her there. Let's watch her on this Threads thing, because we got to make sure and see what influence she's having.
If you was talking to anybody else, they would be like, you talking conspiracy theories. And I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying. And I'm like, I know. Of course what you think you think the analytics is only for our eyes?
No, but that's why I talk to you. I don't talk to people who are not smart. Like, again, you asked me about those conversations. I no longer have it in me to do that so-called work, and there are people that are out there, they're like anti-racist educators and all this. I'm like, great, you play that role.
Absolutely.
I just got my blood pressure under control.
Absolutely.
Not about to sit here again.
Okay, so I do have to ask you though about Project 2025, because again, that's what want people to take away from this conversation that
Yeah.
this is a brilliant Black woman I'm talking about, and I can focus on
Same.
all of the topics of the day, and I can
Mm.
focus on a lot of the things, even Project 25 politics, all these different things, and I love your perspective and the value that you can contribute for each of those things. But what I want people to understand is what is underneath it all. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, and because what's underneath it all is a human. And what I mean by that is just what you said before, you're no better or less than anyone else except for the value and choices that you have made that have created the experiences that is your life. But other people can access those things too if they're willing to take the risk, if they're willing to do
Yes.
those things. What does it
Yeah.
look like for Black people right now to take a risk in this
Mm-hmm.
political climate when you have Project 2025 right around the corner and people are telling you
Yeah.
we cannot risk this. We cannot
Yeah.
risk a Trump presidency. We cannot risk them greenlighting this thick book of Project 2025. So we must vote for Kamala
Um,
Harris.
yeah, no tea, no shade, but they gonna do it anyway. So I need people to be smart enough to understand. One, they've been doing it. I read through it, right? I read it like about 3 times now already. Half the stuff is stuff they already been doing. So I don't understand why people are all freaking out. I'm like, oh, you didn't know that this was already a thing? Like, it is. It may not have touched your life though.
Or
And
your
that's
state
why
or
you
your
aren't
city.
aware, right? But as they say in their opening, they've been advising conservative leadership for the last 40 years. So, this is a lot is not new, but also it is risky, right? People say, well, it's actually only risky in Pennsylvania and Michigan. Everybody else can vote however they want to vote. But again, you got to know these things.
Right.
You got to know electoral
You're talking
college.
about
You got
the
to know
electoral college,
slavery.
right?
You got to know where it's at. I can say I'm not voting for Kamala Harris because I live in a very blue state. I know my state is going to go to them. So I have a bit, I don't want to say privilege because I don't believe Black people have privilege in this world, but I can say that I can make that choice to not vote for her, to conscientiously abstain from voting, because of my own thing, because I already know that that's going to happen, right? It's tougher for the folks that are in those like 7 counties that, call the election to vote, maybe with their conscience. And again, as I said earlier, I'm not going to be mad at you for doing what you feel like you need to do, right? That's important. At the same time, I just want to make sure that all of our voices can be heard and people can understand there is diversity in our political thought. There's diversity in what we are hoping to achieve. They're like, oh, you're just not going to vote? Well, I did vote. I voted uncommitted in the primaries, right? That is a vote.
I did
and
too.
I, however I vote going forward, it is what it is. But I don't think that people, okay, how do I say this without being offensive?
Say however you need to say, honey.
I think that we need higher political literacy. Yes. I think that we need a lot more
reading comprehension
knowledge.
Period.
Yes. Well, yes. Okay. So I talk a lot about literacy. 85% of Black people in America cannot read beyond an 8th grade level.
Do you understand that do you understand that a lot of people are hiding it? Do you understand that I have ran into so many? Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps because I have no people, and they are remaining in a space and almost hiding the fact that they really can't read and not putting effort to increasing that skill or addressing that certain thing and getting all kinds of upset about all kinds of conversations.
It's so hard. Because when you cannot read, you cannot function in society in so many ways. And so it is very difficult for a lot of people, and the embarrassment, the shame, and all those things. But I also want to remind Black people, this is something that was done to us, okay? It was illegal for us to learn how to read. So the fact that we have these statistics now is not surprising. However, I have to bring them up because they affect these conversations. They matter when we have these conversations. Okay. So if you can't name all 3 branches of the government, right, which only 1 in 3 Americans can actually do, how do we have a conversation about Project 2025 and what the impact is on? They're like, oh, well, if Trump wins, he can appoint, these these people to the Supreme Court. Who's retiring, y'all? Do you even know the ages of the folks? You don't, right? So you're sitting here fear-mongering, saying, oh, he's going to be able to appoint. Ain't nobody retiring. If he loses, all the conservatives are going to stay right there, and they're not going to retire. If he wins, and they do happen to leave, he's just replacing them. This is the kind of knowledge and critical thinking that needs to exist for us to have these conversations. So I can't have a conversation with somebody saying, oh my God, he's going to appoint all these people to the Supreme Court. No, he's not.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Neither is Kamala.
Like you said, there's so much
right?
There's so much
Neither
political theater that happens. Yeah, you're right. There's so much
that's
political
that's
theater.
why I have my thing. I call it political theater because
Yes.
to me, it's you like the DNC is coming up and I am ready for this because it's all theatrical. It's all nonsensical because it's
well,
all
you thought
fluff.
it was only the RNC. I thought that only the RNC was the WWF match, where you were watching this whole show and they're like, and then
it's a circus.
The DNC is the same.
It's the circus. It's all now, but now,
not the exact same, but
they dropping features. So we're starting to see who's on the lineup now, and that's getting spicy, and I'm very interested in that. But what I wanted to do with Project 2025, part of why I went through and started extracting it is because I understood that our people can't access it in the same ways. And I, as an educator, I'm like, okay, well, my job is to read things, interpret it, distill it, teach it, and get it out there. Yeah. So I went through, I made 2 videos that are about almost 5 hours total. I wrote a long form piece extracting different things that I like, really summarizing what I think it is. But ultimately, what I need people to walk away and understand is that Donald Trump is not the key to Project 2025 being implemented. They can do whatever they want. They will do what they want. They have been doing what they want. And a lot of the fear mongering is really interesting. They're like, oh, he's going to shut down, the Affordable Care Act. He said that last time. Did it happen? Because he's incompetent, right? He's going to do this. No, he's not. No, he's not. He doesn't actually. So
you don't think that he could implement dictatorship like he wants to on day one?
I don't think Donald Trump does anything. So that's the bottom line. He has handlers. He doesn't do anything. He is a scapegoat. When things go wrong, they can say, well, we never really liked that clown anyway. It's all political theater. At the end of the day, if Vice President Harris is elected as the president, it will be monumentous. Yes, it will be a moment in history. The first woman president. She is not a white woman. She's still very much Democrat establishment. She's wealthy, highly educated, etc. She's a coastal elite, all those great things, but it's still going to be pretty monumental. And we can celebrate that for what it is. I do not have to, in my conscience, cast a vote for someone who has said she's had unwavering support for Israel since she was a child. And so when I hear that, right, when I hear that coming out of her mouth, and then I hear her meeting privately with Netanyahu and then coming out and saying that they have unwavering United States support, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You all can vote for her if that makes you feel good, but I cannot. And I wasn't going to vote for Biden, so why would I vote for her? Because she's not doing anything different. The only difference is that she is a woman and she is half Black and half Indian. It's the same agenda, the same everything. So I'm kind of looking at some people funny. I was like, well, you swore you weren't voting for Biden. Like, you were so anti-Biden. Now you're so pro-Kamala. And I'm like, the platform ain't changed. In fact, we don't have a platform because they don't have anything on the website but give us money and vibes. So,
girl, when you started calling that out, I was just like,
what is it? Like, what? Okay, we're donating to Vibes. You already came in with tens of millions of dollars, and then you raised another 80 million more. What do you need so that you can land in these airport hangars and pay for all of that? Okay, whatever. We don't have to go there. The bottom line is that our folks, in my opinion, at that time when it came to Project 2025, I felt like there needed to be some summarization, interpretation, because
absolutely.
And
where can they get this?
So if you go, it's free on my Patreon, patreon.com/Feminista Jones. Yep, it's free. It's open, it's public. And you can go to my Instagram and like kind of scroll and look at my Project 2025 videos that I've made where I was like kind of walking through that. Just because people also, because I know that a lot of people won't even read a long form piece about it, I made the videos.
You need the video.
Right? part of being a good educator is meeting people where they are and understanding the needs. And so that's what I did. But I'm in a lot of groups like on Facebook and stuff on my personal account, and just the ignorance born of illiteracy, it's
Yeah.
really scary. And so I'm way more concerned about that than I am about the empire. The empire is going to do what it did. It did what it did with when Obama was president, right? It's going to do what it's going to do. I'm more interested in the experiences, everyday experiences of our people.
I definitely have to have you on again when it makes sense for you and your
Yeah.
schedule and everything, but because
Yeah.
there's just so much more I would love to dive into, because I really do appreciate your stance.
Mm.
Like, and I just need to, like, I want people to start to be able to slow down and to see things and to value things. And so when I say that I value your stance,
Mm.
the way you stand firmly, and the way you stand with lightheartedness, even in the midst of like all these different, like heavy different things. Um, I know that it's not always easy to do that, because I am someone who operates in
Mm.
that similar space.
Mhm.
And it's been difficult for me to sometimes ask for help or signal that I need some support, but just know that I'm in your community of that support.
Appreciate you. I love it.
One of the words I want to drop in this moment right now, I drop it often, 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 is responsibility. And just that a Buddhist friend, gave me this definition of it as the ability to respond.
Mm.
And just talking about, you're just talking about voting for Kamala Harris, you doing your part, what you know you do, what your state is, what the risks are, what all the different things are. Um, I see a lot of people asking a lot of questions, and they seem to
Mm.
be asking more questions of me and you and other folks who have maybe a different perspective than they are of their political people that they're voting for. They're giving money without asking a single question that they've
Not
asked us.
asking a question.
Yes.
Nothing.
So I guess what I want to ask and sort of tap on is, what does responsibility look like intersectionally
Mm.
for Black people, for brown people, for Palestinian people,
Mhm.
for people with criminal backgrounds, seeing millions of dollars and things like that go into building cop cities across the country, and to then have a candidate who has often described herself as a cop.
Top
When
cop.
I
Top
top
cop.
cop, top cop. So when I think about responsibility as the ability to respond, I'm now
Mm.
putting myself in a place where I'm accepting. I felt like I heard you say the same thing, but like, these are the choices they are making. Cool.
Mhm.
You said that have an unwavering commitment to Israel.
You
That was
planted trees
your
for them.
that was your response.
Yeah,
And that
that was
was
the
your
response.
ability as a leader in this space, who has had as much access to information,
Mhm.
so that the fact that you keep mentioning October 7th even is a spit in the face of so many people. Just through this conversation alone, you have given me sort of the courage and just the
Mm.
space to respond the way I want to respond
Mhm.
to, if this is what is being presented to me and to what is a thing. Like, I am a trans person, I am a Black person, I am a woman identified person, I'm all these things.
Mhm.
But I want to give myself the privilege to separate myself from the, I guess, single issue or single mindedness that they even would think
Ain't no
about.
such thing as single
It's
issue.
so
You good?
backwards. It's so backwards. You know what I mean? But just saying that, I
Yeah.
pull myself away from that to say that, with
Yeah.
all of those things considered,
Mm.
what's my response to someone whose stance is that? I don't
Your
know if I have the.
response is do vote however you want to vote, because it's your vote. It is your
It's your
right.
vote, right?
I,
Yeah.
I I wish people would respect that. Like, it is your vote. It
Respect
is
my
your
vote.
right to
Yeah.
do with your vote whatever you want to do. people before us fought very hard for us to have the freedom to vote, just as they fought for the freedom for people to have abortions. Does that mean everybody's going to go have an abortion? No. It just means that they want to be free to be able to do so if they choose. The same with the vote, right? Especially when you're operating under electoral college. Again, it's political theater, especially when you have the delegates who could change their vote if they really wanted to. It's political theater. So when you have someone like Hillary Rodham Clinton getting millions more of the popular vote, and she was not the president, again, it is political theater. So we're going along with that. So if a person wants to perform theatrically and go and vote for Kamala, it means something to them. It's significant. I am not going to tell them not to do that. I've never once said to people that they should not vote for her. I've only spoken about my own choices. And at the end of the day, it's my vote, my choice. You guys understand my body, my choice. Why don't you understand my vote, my choice? Right?
I think that you just came up with the title of this episode, my vote, my choice, with Feminista Jones. Baby.
That's it.
My goodness. Yes. So I'm definitely tapping in again. I got goosebumps. I hope you have a great rest of the day educating folks. I hope you feel valued. And that you just get to.
I hope you do too, because I see how they are treating you and doing things, and I would love to know which transgender woman they are going to pluck to speak at the DNC this year. And I kind of have an idea who I think they'll go with, but we'll see if it even happens, right? You should be speaking there. You should be the person, because you have such a prominent voice and you've been doing this work. But again, this is the empire.
But they won't invite me without strings. And that has been the conversation that I have had.
Are you going to be their puppet? I'm honored that you invited me on to be able to have a conversation like this, because I need people to see what Black woman solidarity looks like across various things, different spaces or what have you. And yes, okay, you're trans. Yes, I'm cis. Okay, great, whatever. We're Black women, and we're navigating this world as Black women, and everything that comes with it, right? Except one of us has a girlfriend and one of us doesn't.
Yeah. Thank you. You noticed that? I did kind of introduce her to the world.
You sure did. You sure did. It wasn't even a soft launch. It wasn't even a soft launch. It was a rocket launch.
All of a sudden, then when I saw the gay magazine had tagged us in the photo, and then, to see the comment section and to see people in our own, like, because you're talking about people who follow gay news. And now we know a lot of straight people can't help themselves but to follow straight gay business. But this particular account, is mostly people in the community following, and the comments were so off that basically saying that now I'm in a heterosexual relationship, calling me a man with like that we didn't. So people not knowing that I've already had my surgery. People saying
that all people are so stupid. Oh gosh,
lesbians saying that I can't be a lesbian. Like it was just so. It's girl. If you just take a look in there, girl. It's but I
don't, because it's gonna piss me off. And I'm Aries. I'm a fighter. We're loyal cheerleaders. I'll be in there swinging at everybody who says something wrong.
Well, you know what? There are people already in there swinging right now because they're like, I cannot believe that we have this far to go in our own community. But what's worse is I see people who are not in the community somehow seeing this and saying, "Whoa, y'all, look." Even in their own community, they saying they're confused about this.
Well, that happens with Black folks too. That happens with women, right? The yes all women stuff and all. That happens. Every community is gonna have those kinds of things that people are gonna look and say, "See, they can't even get along." Nobody does that with white people,
right?
Nobody does that with white men. Nobody does that with heterosexuals. See, look at those heterosexuals. They disagree on Chris Brown and Rihanna. Look at them. The heterosexuals can't figure it out. Nobody does that. So I don't allow for it to permeate. I don't allow it for it to be anything that, resonates too deeply with me, because again, and I'm going to say this and then I'm going to go, people are by and large not smart. And I'm sorry. They're just
I mean,
not.
I think that was a full sentence. I
That's
think that was
it.
a
And I'm gonna go because I got like 3 other things to
yes.
do
Well,
today. But I
thank
love
you.
you. I love you. I
Thank you
love you.
for
I love
taking
you.
this time and us
I
going
appreciate
overtime, but
you.
we are going to include all of this. So thank you for your
Yes,
valuable
please.
time. And you
Please.
will also. Oh, so thank you so much, and y'all, we will be right back.